Hello, molweni makhaya nakwindawo ngendawo enibukeleni kuzo. It's good to be back. Welcome to another installment of YilungeloLakho. It's your right, your consumer affairs TV show broadcasting to you live on SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Igama lami kaloku Sisanda Jonas, nikhumbule kaloku babukeli njengesiqhelo sizokwamkela ke nizeni izimvo ekuhambeni kwethuba kule inkqubo. Our studio call-in numbers are 011-714-6918 or 011-714-6919. You can also email your views to consumer@sabc.co.za. Niyakwazi ke nosifumana ku Facebook okanye ku Twitter. Bogus healers and prophets of all sorts have flooded South Africa's urban areas. They include psychics, self-proclaimed spiritual and faith healers, including illegal traditional healers. They are all out to cash in on unsuspecting consumers, tarnishing the image of legitimate traditional healers. At least 6 out of every 10 South Africans are known to consult traditional healers. Are consumers being fleeced by these healers, or do we need to learn more?
Lezi zinhlobonhlobo zezinyanga ezizibiza ngodokotela nabaprofethi zithembisa yonke into ngaphansi kwelanga. Zithembisa inhlanhla, ukubuyisa uthando, ukuwina izimali nokuxosha imoya emibi nezithi letha amabhadi. Ezinye zithi zilapha izifo eziningi njengengculazi, zihushula izisu kanye nokukhuliswa kwezitho zomzimba. Noma abanye abahlali baseningizimu Afrika bengakholelwa kuloko, iningi liyaya kulezi zinyanga liyofuna usizo. Abaphathi nengalo yomthetho emadolobheni amaningi bayazama ukulwisa nokuqeda lezi zinyanga. Idolobha laseGoli nje selike labopha abaningi odokotela mbumbulu ngokuphanyeka amaphepha akhangisa ngemisebenzi yabo ngokungekho emthethweni. Laba baboshiwe baboshelwe ukuthembisa ngezinto abangenabufakazi bazo. Iningi ke libuza ukuthi lezi zinyanga zifaka kanjani izikhangiso ezingenaqiniso emaphephandabeni. Isimningi iminyaka inhlangano i-Advertising Standards Authority icubungula lezi zikhalo. Eziningi zalezi zikhangiso ziyakhishwa emaphepheni, abaniniyo baxolise noma bakhokhe inhlawulo. Abanye noma bevala iminyango baningi abasha abangenayo kuleli bhizinisi.
Ukhona ama-complaints amaningi esesadila nawo ngalama advert. So sithola abatholakali.
Ubaba umvubo inyanga yaseningizimu Afrika kavumelani naloko okushiwo ilezi zinyanga emaphepheni ngokulapha izifo ezisulelanayo.
Akekho umuntu olapha isifo sengculazi eSouth Africa ngomuthi wesintu. Into engiyaziyo izinyanga ziyayehlisa ingculazi noma kade top.
Umvubo usihleka usulu lezethembiso abazenza kulezi zikhangiso emaphepheni nezifana nokuwina ilotho.
Mina ngokwami ngibona ukuthi hayi into engekho leyo. Akasibone yena aqala lo muntu eyiwina ilotho esiphi imali ngoba unemali eningi uwina ilotho yena. Uhlale eyiwina zonke izinsuku.
Abathenga abaningi bakhala ngokuthi ezinye zalezi zikhangiso zehlisa izimilo zabantu kanti nokubeka kwazo lapho zibona khona na izingane akujabulisi neze.
It's unethical, it's illegal in that some of the acts that they claim to be doing should actually fall under the Medicines Control or in terms of the Medicines Act. They are not registered as the doctors. The creams that they provide are not even cleared, are not safe, are dangerous.
Izazi ngezempilo zinxusa abathengi ukuba bayeke ukusebenzisa imithi engahloliwe. Kodwa lezi ziqayiso ziwela phansi uma sibheka izinga labathenga abafayo ngenxa yokuphuza le mithi.
There are dangers in using anything that you pick up in the street because one, we don't know what is in it. We don't know how it works, if it does at all. We don't know what complications it has because it can affect any other parts of the body. And then short-term complications and long-term complications. You can have complications on the person's body and the person's psychology. Some of these complications we can't even reverse.
Imtholampilo ehushula izisu ngokungekho emthethweni sekungelinye lamabhizinisi esiwuchithisa ka. Noma lolu hlelo selugunyaziwe kuleli baningi abasaya kule mtholampilo. Iningi ke izingane ezisuke zithenjiswe amanani aphansi nokungezwa ubuhlungu izikhangiso. Iningi labo ke baphelela izibhedlela izimo zempilo yabo nezingane abazithwele sezizimbi kakhulu.
There's a point where we can do the pregnancies. For instance, the law allows us to 12 weeks, 16 weeks with motivation, and even up to 20 weeks in some cases with the proper medical indications. But when you come to these places, the personnel is not skilled in what they are doing, so the patients can actually die while doing the procedure from hemorrhage. Can bleed and they cannot know how to stop the bleeding, and then there's infections and patients can also die.
Umthethosisekelo uvumela zonke izinkolelo kodwa abathengi bayanxuswa ukuba babhasobhe izigebengu basebenzise izinhlelo zempilo ezihloliwe kuphela ukuze bagweme ubungozi.
And we do have patients who stop medication because they think they have been healed, because their pastor says so. They've prayed or they say so. We do have a very, very big problem. And then culture, you understand that we have the circumcision debacle as we speak now. 30 patients are dead.
Abaningi abathengi basiphe izimvo ezihlukahlukene ngalokho.
We are actually introducing things to children which are actually not of their age.
I just don't believe. Angikholelwa kuzo.
Mina ngiyakholelwa emthini wesintu ukuthi umuntu nami njalo ukuthi usebenzise umsebenzele nabo mhlawumbe uthi necala kodwa mase ngifike kodwa ngisebenzise ukuthi icala nginalo.
Ngile kulabantu bangifika lapha banginikeza ezinye isishumpana nje bathi ngigeze ngazo if ngafika nge3 days ngibuyele kubo 3 days base ngibuyela kuba phela umuntu lesaka movie le ndawo le akasebenzela kuyo.
I think this posters expose women and there are young people who are lost here and who actually take these things seriously, and most of them are just scams.
Uhulumeni unxusa emphakathi ukuba ibikela bomthetho ngodokotela mbumbulo nezinyanga ezethembisa ngokwelapha kwemilingo njengoba izigebengu eziningi sezixhaphaza abathengi ngalokho, ikakhulu ngoba noma ubani uyazingenela kuleli business ngoba ukulawula kuncane. Nguzama Buthelezi, welungelo lakho eGoli.
And now to take our discussion further, ithi-ke samkele uPhepsile Maseko yena ulilungu lombutho wabanyangi besintu i-Traditional Healers Association. Sibe naye noJoe Mayela yena usisithethe sesebe lezempilo i-Department of Health. Samkele-ke noDr. Mohome Masocha yena oyingcali kwezesintu. Ladies, gentlemen, welcome to YilungeloLakho. Let me start off with you, Mr. Maseko. Before we start our conversation, just to break down what we are talking about today, what are traditional healers, and take us through the different types of amagqirha akhoyo apha eMzantsi Afrika.
Okay. Thokoza Sisanda, and the listeners at home. I think the most important thing that one would have to unpack firstly is looking into what is entailed within the Traditional Health Practitioners Act. Because that's actually a legislation that governs traditional medicine practice in the country now. And this is a legislation of 2007, which then detects to us who becomes then a traditional health practitioner. It says it should be a herbalist, ukhaya, and then it should be a traditional birth attendant, who is umbelethisi. It should be a traditional surgeon, which is somebody who performs surgeon work like ingcibi. And then the last one would be your diviners, izangoma. People that would have performed, people that would have been trained, initiated, so that they're able to perform psychic work and all sorts of things. So basically in this country we've got 4 legal categories of practice.
Okay, uphuma ke kumbutho i-Traditional Healers Association. Umsebenzi wenu yintoni?
Umsebenzi wethu is basically to assist government formulate policies and legislations lezawenza ukuthi ubunyangi in South Africa bukwazi ukuthi benzeke is to put a lot of pressure on government to ensure that even if those policies are in place, but they are not just there to gather dust, instead they are there to be implemented by the many layers within government, which is now your district, your provincial and your national. And ensuring that our members at the THO comply to some code of ethics and behavioral standards. As a result, we have a code of ethics and behavior policy that is able to guide how members of the THO should conduct themselves.
On our insert, Dr. Masocha, we had highlighted that 1 or 6 out of 10 people in South Africa do consult traditional healers. So it's quite a big industry.
Yeah, definitely it is a very big industry, and it has got a very long history. I mean, whether one likes it or not, there's no way of actually scraping traditional healing. So it has been there many generations ago.
But do you think there are misconceptions about what traditional healing is about?
I think we need to begin where we are in terms of the history of this country, especially post-1994. It became quite interesting how a lot of people now came up and said, no, they are traditional healers and so on. And that creates a very serious problem. And I think I have a strong feeling that some research has got to be conducted. Why this upsurge now? You meet almost everyone in every corner who's actually claiming that he is actually called. And even some of the people who are actually having what I would call normal, and of course I'm being very careful here to say normal diseases or ailments. And some of these ailments are now actually said to be related to ubunyanga, and so which creates a serious problem. And I think this is one area, and I agree with what Pepsile actually raised earlier on in terms of standards and controls. But I think at the core of it, which I think probably we might pick it up at a later stage to say who trains and how should you be trained and how do you standardize it and how do you ensure that this person actually has got a valid qualification in terms of practicing as a traditional healer. So I think that creates a problem. So therefore we cannot divorce the political situation in South Africa from that situation. And then you also have now some of these people who are coming from outside South Africa, and then how do you regulate them? And they're all over, and then who actually holds them accountable?
All right.
So these are some of the challenges.
So how is the industry regulated?
Well, there is law in this country to make sure that the industry is regulated, and one of those is to make sure that the institution is preserved as it should be, as my sister has already said, to make sure that whatever else that we do in the country is based on the law. And we have laws in this country that must be followed, and we think that with the issue of code of ethics and behavioral rules that even the industry itself is putting together, it is something that will help us to make sure that indeed people subscribe to those kind of basic behaviors. And we think that if we do that and we work together, we will get somewhere, so that our people should not get trapped into bogus ones who are just doing things just to make sure that our people, mostly for it's mostly hijacked by people who just need money, and they do all sorts of things, and in fact in the process they tarnish the good name of those who are legitimate, those who know what they are doing, and those who are actually helping people out of their ailments, out of their situations and so forth. And I think that is not correct. We need to do something, all of us.
All right. Ndifuna ubuyela ke ngokule ndaba yomthetho kucacile ikhona code of conduct efuneke ke ngokamagqirha le ayilandele. Briefly, ntoni efuneke niyenzile ngokomthetho, intoni that the law prohibits amagqirha in doing?
If you buga the detail within inazana THP Act, it says categorically clear kokubana uma ngabe kuthiwa unyanga, what is it that you need to adhere to, what sort of standards and all of that. But in anyhow, Traditional Health Practitioners Act cannot be able to exhaust all the detail in terms of how you need to conduct yourself. That is why it is the responsibility, therefore, of people that sit within council to then formulate an inclusive, code of ethics that is going to ensure ukuthi akubi nabantu njengoba asho nje umayile, akubi nabantu abazotholakala sebezenza inyanga okanye mhlawumbe bavuke nje namhlanje kusasa soyinyanga leyo muntu. So all of those things would be things that needs to be crafted within that particular policy.
All right, maske sibambe apho kwangoku ke makhe sitsi evenkleni kodwa ke phambi koko mandinikhumbuze ukubana ke niyakwazi ke ukuthabatha inxaxheba kule nkqubo ngokuthi ke nisitsalele umnxeba ku 011714686918 okanye ke ku 0117146919. Ningasithumelela ke ne-email ku consumer@sabc @YilungeloLakho okanye ke ku Twitter or Facebook. Welcome back. Usabukele inkqubo Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right here on SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. You can also take part in today's discussion by calling us on 0117146918 okanye ke usitsalele umnxeba ku 0117146919. You can also send us an email to consumer@sabc.co.za or catch us on Facebook or Twitter. Umba esingawo namhlanje ngabantu abaye baqhathwe ngabantu abathi bangamagqirha. Legitimate traditional, that's what they call themselves, so we're going to say they are so-called traditional healers, and it seems that it is a huge problem in our country. How big is this trend?
Le trend leyo ganga iningi kakhulu, iningi kakhulu le trade yokuganga, because obviously mangabe ubuya kwelinye ilizwe and uthi uyafika uthola ukuthi mhlawumbe kunenkinga yokuthi ama policies amaningi ngoba ama legislations are right aka implementwa ngendlela efanele, and akunayo that overarching body lekwaziyo ukuthi ibheke ukuthi kusetshenzwa kanjani, kube senaloko sekuletha incindezi kubantu abafana nathi abasebenza kahle. Kodwa ke over and above that, inkinga esiyibona ukuthi yenzeka ukuthi uthola ukuthi ngesinye isikhathi abantu bangama nomads. I mean, baningi abantu esibalandelile kunama cases amanye swayise small claims court, uthola ukuthi umuntu uza uthatha imali zabantu ayenga abantu. I mean, ziningi lezi zinto ezenzekayo la ngaphandle in the name of healing. So mangabe singeke sakwazi ukuthi kube nale political will ezakwenza ukuthi kube siqiniseko sokuthi abantu abanjengalabo baba nesijeziso esiheavy ngendlela emangalisayo, because even then nangiya kumuntu ngithi ngicela uthi anginyange, umuntu should be honest and ethical ukuthi athi ngingakwazi ukusebenza kodwa ngigcine la okungaphezulu kwaloko angeke ngakwazi ukwenza. So unfortunately asinabo labo bantu abakwazi ukukhuluma leqiniso ngesinye isikhathi, but this only, I think ifuneka isende nje a stern warning, not only just kubantu abavela ngaphandle kodwa la kubantu bala ekhaya ukuthi langabe uthi uyathwasisa umuntu followisha yonke le curriculum yokumthwasisa umuntu.
All right, sinaye ke umbukelo sekhaya ukhaya yena uphuma eMpuma Koloni. Khaya wamkelekile enkqubeni?
Yebo sisi.
Hello dad.
Hello.
Thetha kunye nathi dad.
Sisi ingathi le problem inkulu kakhulu, kodwa ufuneka ababantu laba baphezulu kozokwenza nje imali, not that bayabanceda abantu, babanceda abantu benza nje imali, babonile abantu bazi ngathi abantu bakuthi ingathi bazizibhanqa, so babenza bathatha nje imali zabo abaxoxisana ngelotho, abaxoxisana yonke into nje baxoxe ngathi bazayenza right. Akho right bazanayo. Masihlale thina nalamagqirha wethu behleli nawo apha asincede kubantwana bethu qhathi singabahoya abantu basuka ngaphandle kodwa bathatha imali zethu.
Kulungile ke tata, inkosi kakhulu. Dr. Masocha, he's just making a point that, you know what, the trend is growing. It is growing. So I want to find out again, is it because that people are also found to be gullible? That's why this is growing as well?
Yeah.
Because there are victims. It's like, okay, if there are people who are willing to pay, then let's continue with our business.
Yeah, I think there are two issues that I would like to bring up. The first one is when you look at traditional healing, it's one of the challenges of actually, and I'll still hear what my colleagues are saying in terms of how you standardize it, and I know there are policies in place, because what it does is actually moves from tangible to intangible and from intangible to tangible, meaning there are certain things that you claim that you can do that you can't touch, and then how do you regulate it? Let's say, for instance, someone talks about divorce, and I promise you that I'll be able to help you reinstate it, or winning back your lost lover, and so on. So these intangibilities are actually, they lead also to a form of confusion where you can't, how do you regulate that in this situation? So it's different from when you talk about a biomedical scientist who says you come in with a problem on your body and then you say, this is my problem, I have a headache. Then you deal with a specific problem. So this is one challenge. Now secondly, I think one of the issues is that these gullibilities that you spoke about is that I think in this country, anything which is new, we run after it. And most people, you read from a newspaper and then you see, oh, this traditional healer comes from Ghana. Because I mean, we have been excluded from some of these things politically, and then we think it actually makes sense as well. And I think what the caller actually said was actually saying, let's stick with what we used to have. But actually what he does say is that how do you regulate something that you cannot have, put your hands on it and control it?
Singaqala njani to regulate this from a point of, because uhamba naphina and you see posters, you see ads on magazines, there are ads everywhere. People are flooded with these ads.
Well, it is a problem, and one of the things that we need to look into is to start from the beginning. I think that most of these things are more criminal than what it claims to be, that we can do this or that. It is criminal because they are our traditional healers who can do the job, and they don't advertise, by the way, because we know them. So we know where they are. They are called to do. It is so spiritual that they can even come to you and say this or that about your ailment or your situation. But these ones are advertising so much, and the advertising of these people is so rigorous because they know that the main thing is to cash on people, gullible people who do not know. But also that I think we have a responsibility to make sure that even ourselves, amongst ourselves, we need to talk about these things. I mean, if now I can tell you that if you take a 9-year-old or 10-year-old and talk about family planning or abortion, I think they know abortion more than family planning, simply because every street pole, at every shopping center where a lot of us are, at taxi ranks and what, they even know where to target us. And therefore we need to make sure that we deal with these things also from a family kind of a situation. Otherwise our people will be as gullible as they are. But the main thing is that this is one of the most criminal things that are happening in our country, and we need to do something about it, all of us. It is not easy to regulate, as Doctor has said, that some of the things, I mean, how do you really, if I say bring back your love, how would I know whether you can be able to do so, unless if I come to consult? Then it's only then that I know.
Inqoko yethu kodwa ke sinayo uThembi yena from Gauteng. Thembi wamkelekile enkqubeni?
Ngiyanibingelela kulungelo lakho.
Yenkosi mama, kunjani?
Uyazi ukuthi nje ukuthi nathi singabothathekile. Ukuthi umuntu uzohamba bhala estradini athi uyalapha ungamazi ukuthi lapha abuya khona ubalekiswe yini. Njengala eGoli nje. Ngokubona wonke lama placard nyana abhalwe la babuya endaweni eyi1 ngizabahlonipha nje ngengayibizi. Kodwa nje uzoya kanjani umuntu ongamazi ngempela ukuthi uyalapha? If uyalapha ubalekiswa yini kubo njengoba bebaningi kangaka kwenziwa yini ukuthi babe baningi kangaka? Imithi yakhona uthola iyenziwe eminye ihleli la stradini ayinama expiry date ana next. Mangwagula lo muntu uzoya kubani ngoba kwesikhathi uzothi uyaya lapho uthola ukuthi uthile kwesinye isigodi. So kufanele ukuthi isikhathi esiningi nathi sazi ukuthi mangabe uyagula zikhona indawo bukhona umuntu owazi abanama certificate mangabe ugula uzokwazi ukuthi nangabe soxakekile ubuyele lapho kuleyo ndawo zo report uthi ngubani. Ngiyabonga.
Enkosi kakhulu Thembi. Ndiyafuna ubuyela kule ndawo yokubana because i-posters ezikhoyo benza i-claims ezingaphaya bathembisa abantu izinto. Sibona i-insert yethu nalapho one of the comments was if uyakwazi ukunceda umuntu awini lotho yena kuthene engenayo nale mali. And again, you highlighted a point where, because I read somewhere where it said as a general rule, amagqirha awafane as advertise themselves like these bogus traditional healers are doing. Do you find that some of these claims are true? Is everything they are saying not true?
Asengikhulume njengomelaphi. In most cases, ama-claims wabo awanalo iqiniso. Because baye bathi kuwe geza ngeqanda uma ulahlelwe indoda kodwa leqanda ungayibhabazi but uwashe ngalo ugudle ngalo umzimba wonke. There is no way, because even if ugudla ngensipho umzimba wonke isipho at some point izoba soluble kumanzi. So manje na ugudla uba hard on iqanda obviously izophabaka kuwe na ubuyela back ukuthi leqanda bese liyaphabaka kimi. But no, you are wrong. You know, the methodology that you used was not supposed to be the methodology. I mean, what methodology was that? And then secondly, le ndawo abasebenzela kuyo abelaphi bethu abaningi bayazi in South Africa ukuthi kufanele ukuthi indawo abasebenzela kuyo manje ibe indawo enhle ezobonakala abazohlala kuyo bakha kuqaqe ukuthi ugogo Pepsile ke lo osokhuluma naye. But lapha it's dark, filthy and all sorts of things, and it's very scary. Now, how do you go there as a woman? How then do you undress if there's some procedure that needs to be performed on you? Ukhulula njani impahla? and esinye isikhathi uthola mhlawumbe kunezinto eziningi ezenziwayo ekwenza ukuthi egcineni ugcine sokwesaba kunama voices akhulumayo owabonayo ukuthi akufanele ukuthi ngabe kuyakhulunywa kwenziwa zonke lezi zinto. So iziningi izinto ezenzekayo ozibonayo ukuthi it is really done wrong in the name of ubugqirha.
All right. For now, let's take another ad break. Please join us after this. Siphinde sinamkele babukelo sabukele inkqubo yilungelo lakho umxholo ngabanyangi besintu esibabona rhoqo besenza intengiso ngenkonzo zonyango abalinikezayo. Kwamanye amaxa bathembisa ke amathamsanqa ukususwa kwamashwa kwanokusombululwa ke kwengxaki ngengxaki. Kusincedisa ke ngale ngxoxo sinazo ke igesi sethu ezikhona kunye nathi namhlanje. Before siyokwintengiso yethu siyasathetha about these claims that these bogus traditional healers are making. Maybe from the point of the Department of Health, what are your concerns with regards to some of these claims that are being made by these so-called traditional healers?
Well, I think that most of them are just not correct because you can't say that you are going to perform a painless abortion. I think there's nothing such as painless abortion. In fact, people who committed abortion, even if they do it in a clinic or in a hospital setting, it becomes painful for them, even not only physically, but also, you know, from time to time you find a situation where you think about that which you have done. Probably some bit of pain comes back to you and so forth. So to say that it's painless, it's quick and whatnot. We see these people when they come to our hospitals after whatever they did, whatever the kind of things that they used become problems, and then it becomes a medical issue. In fact, there are situation in which somebody is being performed an abortion by these people elsewhere, and then when this person is now getting medically into trouble, they dump the person on the streets. And what do? They call the ambulance, and our ambulances go pick up these people, and you find that indeed this was a botched abortion, and you need to make sure that you put these people and medically do something about it. So it's not correct, and I think that it actually goes beyond that. There are people who make so many claims that at times that this particular bogus healers will then say to you, for instance, if you are on ARVs, and they ask you that you must leave your ARVs and take this particular concoction, it will help you. And what happens? People get problems with their medication because they become now resistant. It's not only just the healers, but also other spiritual kind of people who are doing things, even others, pastors, who can claim that people must leave their medication, either TB medication, either ARVs or what kind, because they are going to pray for them and things like that.
Masikhabe sibamba apho ngizawubuyela kwe Dr. Masokha kwangoku sinayo ubonisile ophuma ke eKZN. Bonisile wamkelekile enkqubeni? Bonisile ubonisile ke ingathi akekho, dinethemba ke uzawuphinda asizame. Dr. Masokha, your view with regards to some of these claims that are being made?
I agree wholeheartedly with my colleagues that it's actually not even true at all, and it's actually worrying, and I think it also challenges and questions the type of legislations that we have. How protected are our consumers in this case? Because I think we're only dealing with reactive cases, and I think something needs to be done. And I think my brother here mentioned something about even spiritualists, some of the pastors who would actually claim and say, if you owe a municipality about 100,000, if you come to my church, that will be cancelled. And I think these things should be challenged, and there should be some regulations in place to ensure that people are not taken for a ride. And I think I still say that there are this new democracy that we have in South Africa. I mean, also it's created all kinds of things. It opened a door for all kinds of problems, and I think we're too relaxed.
All right.
And something needs to be done about that.
Okay, sinayo bonisiwe kwakhona uphume KZN. Bonisiwe wamkelekile enkqubeni?
Yebo ma.
Hello mama.
Yebo njani?
Siyaphila inkosi, sithetha kunye nathi ma?
Hayi siyaphila ma. Cha ngithi ngifuna ukhomenta lo daba lubaluleke kakhulu. Sesifike izinyanga into esixaka kakhulu ukuthi kuma news letha laba sobe advertise kuwo baba advertise kanjani abantu abangabacheckile ukuthi ngempela lo muntu lento uyayenza yini sebeqola abantu abaningi kakhulu nami ngomunye wabo abamqolayo bathi bezongenzela imali ngakhokha ke imali leyo luthe abagunda lemali laba bethu bazowenza sesikhathele impela lamakorokora sathi singenza njani. I'm sorry ukuthi ngikhuluma ngalokho emoyeni ngibiza igama ngesibangisisi ama-foreigners.
Alright, enkosi kakhulu ke mama. Siyabulela ngegalelo lakho. I mean, ukhala ngendaba yokubana how are these people regulated? Even in the media, you get these ads, and we touched on this point ekuqaleni ukuba yenzeka kanjani lento. Kuye kungafunyaniswa njani ukuba abantu ba illegitimate or bogus traditional healers sisawuyazi njani lento?
Yeah, ngiyabonga Sisanda. Yabona lenye into abantu efuneka basifundise yona. Ilento eshiwo mayili. Kokuthi asembekise nje uma ngabe ungumlaphi wesintu awunalo ilungelo lokuthi ubonakale uphatha igazi lomuntu okanye any human tissue izitho zomzimba womuntu utholakala leso siphathe ngoba once wenze kanjalo uma wenza ioath yakho sowuphuma ephehlweni uthwasa uyayalwa kahle ugobela uyakutshela ukuthi lokhu nalokhu akwenzeki nawenza kanjalo uvala isikhwama sakho so immediately uthi uzawu-aborta umuntu abantu they should just run for dear life angeke umelaphi wesintu a-aborta umuntu. So izinye izinkomba ezikhombisayo okunye kwesibili ukuthi omunye umuntu uzokutshela ukuthi into uzokwazi athi kuwe ngizokwenzela ngizoperforma le procedure le kuwe oya mhlawumbe ngizoletha indoda yakho bese uthi bhadala yonke imali nangabe kungemelaphi wesintu umelaphi wesintu uyadevelop confidence in you akutshela ukuthi okay ngicela ukhokhe mhlawumbe imvula mlomo bese uzayikhokha imvula mlomo bese ke akutshela ukuthi ngicela ukuthi emva kwenyanga iza uzobe sesiyabona ukuthi kuqhubeke kanjani athole ifeedback. There is no way that umelaphi wesintu angathi kuweletha imali yonke 100 rand angeke ayenze leyo nto umelaphi so ngoba uyazi ukuthi uyamazi uhlalaphi uyazi ukuthi futhi i-word of mouth marketing esho ukuthi uyasebenza so ize lezi zinto efuneka uzilandelele ungumuntu enenye into lento ukuthi ungayezwa bathi sekunobani osekhoneni so gijima uya kuleyo muntu angeke ikwazi ukuthi kuncede leyo nto leyo.
You see the problem with legislation or how do we control this kind of people? It's very difficult. I think it's very complex and we need to look at it. And as Ugogo said earlier, there's just no way in our traditional medicine. There's nobody who would want to do an abortion. It's a no. And we know that for a fact. And I think that our people need to realize that in real world of us in traditional ways, abortion is a no. In fact, they will tell you that the child is a gift and therefore they will do every other thing to make sure that the child is there. But the other problem that we have is that these people, even on their advert, will know there's no address. It's only a cell phone number, which 3 days later is not working anymore. They are working in. I was working in Limpopo in the Department of Health, and one of the things that we did with the SAPS was to make sure that we find a way of getting these people. And I went into one of these practices. I must share my own experience. When I got there, it was a salon. I can tell it was a salon. People were doing their hair all over, and only after 4 minutes or so, when I've been taken from one pillar to post so that I must not see what is happening, suddenly a curtain opens behind the person who was doing her hair, and some man comes up because I said that I wanted to do an abortion for my girlfriend, but I wanted to check first how much is it and whatnot and whatnot. You could see that the situation is just so bad. So it is so secretive that you cannot regulate it properly because you don't even know where they practice and how they do whatever they're doing. And I think we need to make sure that we look into this thing seriously. People must find ways. Like for instance, if you want to really, you have a particular ailment, if you cannot go to your own traditional healer that you know, why can't you just come to hospital?
All right, just now Matoko on the line. Matoko, wamkelekile nkqubeni?
Cha singifake ngiphawule njengalabantu laba abaqhuba ngesintu yebo baqhuba bona abaningi babo basebenzela amaphaketha ngoba uzothola ukuthi uvasela kubiza iambulance nanga umuntu semgwaqweni kade ekhipha isisu khipha kanjani isisu umuntu uhulumeni eseyikhipha imali abantu bondliwe uthola ukuthi umuntu unesifo lesengculazi esikhona uyomchaza umuntu amchaze wonke umzimba athi uyamelapha ekugcineni kodwa lo muntu utholakala saye esibhedlela uthi hayi lo muntu unedlozi lo nangawasebenzisa amaphilisi into enjani le ngikhuluma nenjalo noma ngeke ngiyiphawule inkonzo esho lo ukuthi hayi sebenzisa nanti uyoto ukuthi wena nanku uvaselina sebenzisa uzosinda kodwa ekugcineni umuntu uyashona zibe zikhona izinto zikhishiwe abanye abantu abanalo iqiniso kulabo abantu badlala ngabantu noma umuntu esehlupheka kakhulukazi kulabo abaxaye ngempela ibona abahlala phezulu abahlinza inkomo bahlinza izimbuzi bebulala abantu akulungile lokho abakwenzayo angazi ukuthi uhulumeni angenza kanjani ukuthi ngempela kube umuntu oneqiniso obonakalayo ukuthi cha ngiyakwazi ukuthi ngiyaprove nakho kwenzekile. Yabonga.
Enkosi kakhulu ke mama. Ndiyafuna ubuyela kule ndaba yobana ikhona iprocess amagqirha ayilandelayo. Okokuqala ayithethi lento mhlambi ke ngolwazi olunokwazi ukunceda abantu. Education awareness programs nokwazi ukuzenza ngoba ewe namhlanje sikhona siyathetha kakuhle ngezi zinto but kucacile ukuba le information ayikafikeleli kumuntu wonke.
Kunama programs esiwenzayo. Ofuneka ukunderstandeke sisanda ukuthi si-organization and singumbutho wamagqirha kodwa ke akusiwo wonke umelaphi othanda ukuthi az-associate ngoma abe kunhlangano ye-THO kodwa ke kunezinto eziningi ezenzayo senza i-documentation sihlangana nama-university athile basincede senze ama-documentations athile esiwabonayo ukuthi azawunceda nje ukuthi adevelop le profession and then okunye futhi esikwenzayo senza ama-pamphlets nje in different areas siwayise ku-Department of Health siwayise sibe nama-partnership programs nabo sikwazi ukuthi siyale abantu ikakhulukazi ama-consumers ukuthi yazi ukuthi uma ukhuluma ngomelaphi ukhuluma ngomuntu onjani ngentanka lembi ke it's a personal choice umuntu uya kumuntu azizwa ukuthi ufuna ukuya kuye so it becomes very very difficult because I mean it's basically a choice.
All right ke mawethu make sithithi ke ukubuyela evenkleni please stay with us. Sinamkele kwakhona kaloku mawethu phambi koba ke siqhubeke ngencoko yethu khumbula ke ukuba nawe ungathabatha inxaxheba ngokusitsalela umnxeba ku-01171469118 okanye ku-01171469119 ungasithumelela ke ne-email ku-consumer@sabc.co.za or catch us on Facebook or Twitter. Ndiyafuna ubuyela ke kwindaba yokuba sazi njani ukuba eli gqirha lisemthethweni okanye eli gqirha alikho semthethweni. There was a concern that was raised that some of these fake traditional healers charge exorbitant prices. Ingaba mhlambi ixabiso abalibizayo nalo it's a dead giveaway kuba lo is an illegitimate healer.
Sisanda kunzima kakhulu ukuthi wazi ukuthi umuntu ngempela ngabe uyinyanga ngendlela engiyona. And the reason why it is very very difficult is because yabona ukusafuneka mhlawumbe sisebenze kanzima ukuthi sibe nesiqiniseko sokuthi abantu abelaphi kubona bayakhona ukuthi ubunyanga babuthathe as a very important trade ekufanele ukuthi bayazi ukuthi ifana namanye ama trades like your western medicine and all of those kube discipline yona but more than that also ngokuthi ama organizations are involved ebunyangeni akakwazi ukuthi akhone ukudlala indima yawo yokuthi benze i-monitoring right ethara nokuthi bameke sure ukuthi babeka in place ama policies in the meantime kunalama gap yokuthi ugovernment isalinde ugovernment ukuthi asincede ukuthi enze imithetho right kuze ukuthi like your code of ethics ezakwazi ukuthi ingamele lobunyanga. But now going to the issue of pricing asengibekise nje bangabe uyilunga la THO onke ama members aka THO I bet you from whatever the province bayazi ukuthi bangabe uhlahluba umuntu it's either charge 50 rands or 100 rands. You can never go beyond 100 rands uma uhlahluba umuntu. It is a known fact. Nangabe kuthiwa umuntu uyamfemba you cannot go beyond 300 rands mangabe umfemba umuntu. It's known within the organization and all the structures of the organization. It is not easy to do that because abanye abogogo bazokutshela ukuthi wenziwa ukuthi wena ufembi wenziwa ukuthi wena Pepsi la uhlahluba abantu. But now you need to put policies in place because you are dealing with human lives. Abantu bebantu funetse wazi ukuthi the people that we're dealing with are socio-economic people laba affectwe isimo abaku socio-economic. So that's why we have an obligation.
All right, inkosi kakhulu sinayo Mary yena uphuma eGauteng. Mary wamkelekile enkqubeni?
Likai bon.
Iteng mama likai?
Ite. Nna ke batla tseba hore nakong ya pele a kere bo doctor ba ne ba sa dumelle gore ba ka advertise. So yana go lokile ka neng go dumeletse neng. And then secondly batho bana a ba sa advertise because mo o kurile dimo go tsile number ya gore if o ka kry ba advertise mo dipolong then le ba tshwarisi but ya no ba kenya mo di gating tsa dintlo tsa rona le ha mo di shopping mall mo ba neya mo ka matsogo and then ko re ba fedi maka plek ya rona Joburg because but ba around Joburg ha ba yetse into you only people ba tsonka kwale ke bona ba advertise to you so this thing ke tsebo the government e ka thusa jwang because we are trying re tla ba bona ba beya mo diphoullong ha ba bone ba se ba kenya mo di-gating tsa rona and then ba fake market plek ya rona.
Alright,
so le bona ba ruti please there's satanism ene ka maoto bana ba rona ba joina dintho tse le ba ba tshepisa hore ba tla kreya lucky ba tla kreya le di-trust tseo ka baka la batho ba ba sifileng kona no.
Enkosi kakhulu ke mama Umeri. Enkosi mama. Tatumaile.
Two problems. One of the problems that, as she's rightfully saying, they come at odd hours to put these things on the poles and it takes ranks and whatnot. I remember that when we were in Limpopo, for instance, Northwest, I know for a fact, Free State, we as the Department of Health, we put people together and said that let us go on a cleanup campaign with the municipalities. We partnered with the municipalities and go on a cleanup campaigns. But I can tell you now, we do it now, and 2 hours later you go back to the same pole that you were working on. They're there again. So we need to find a way of making sure that when these people put them up, what do we do? But we must not in the process create a situation in which people just take the law into their hands and beat up people and so forth. But we need to find a way of making sure that these things are monitored. Number two, you just drive your car with your kids to the mall, and then when you come back, the first thing that you see on your wipers is penis arrangement poster, and your son or your daughter, you're sitting with, you are driving, you are busy, that's the first thing that the child will go and take, either to throw it away. But curiosity is curiosity. Then they want to read it. And what do then do when a child is seeing that there is painless abortion? After some time, if something happens to this particular child, she knows that there are people who are having cell phones, just take a phone and call and try to do those things. So we need to find a way of making sure that we cap this advertising because it's just too much. And in fact, it happens where we are all gathered, either at taxi ranks or at shopping malls and whatnot. So we need to do something about it.
Nensani, yes, I hear you that you need to do something, but what is it that you are doing now?
Some of them is the issue of the local government, which I cannot necessarily talk to them. It's issues of bylaws and whatnot. And I think that they are doing the best that they can. I know that in other towns, they take all they can to make sure that they clean and, in fact, clean their polls. But still they come back. But you know that even when election time comes, we put posters of our parties everywhere. But they will tell you immediately after the elections how much time those things must still be there or be taken off. So those kind of things. But these ones, they use super glue. You can't take them off easily. So those are some of the things. That is bylaws, so I cannot necessarily get into it.
Because Kakulusnayo Nancy from Bloemfontein. Nancy, wamkelekile ngubeni?
Kunjani sis?
Yaphila mama kunjani?
Ngikhona ukhuluma nesangoma.
Alright mama.
Apha eBloemfontein.
Thetha mama.
Ndiyeva sisi yonke lento ethetha. Okokuqala nje ngifuna ukuthi ngicacisa ukuthi isangoma nje xa kuthiwa umuntu unedlozi akaze laphi izinto zokukhitshwa kwesisu, akaze laphi izinto ezokuwina ilotho. Isangoma silawulwa lidlozi, sidila ngamakhambi. Akukho isangoma into ayisebenza ngomlingo, ngoba yonke into ixhomeke kuba ithongo lakhe lithini. Manje laba bantu ke ababhala amabhodi behambe bekhipha amaphepha bebhala izinto ezonakele estradweni, ukuphela kwesimilo. So kufanele ukuthi ugovernment ugovernment kudala silwela ungamphethile nyamazi na uyangazi futhi kudala silwela ukuthi makasikhase ngoba thina sizizangoma asinaso isidima manje. Lesizathu sabantu abasuka ngaphandle uyangiza nje bangifonela mama ngihleli kwami emzini wami wedlozi ulapha kanjani uestradeni idlozi lakho elolapha ngalo lapha kanjani. And idlozi mama alizivumi into edibene nokubulala ngoba ukukhipha isisu kukubulala. Isangoma siyathwasa mama, masipha emthwaseni sinikeza umthetho ukuthi uzobalapha kanjani abantu. Isangoma sizenzi izinto ezingamasikisi. Cha into ngifuna ukukutshela yona mama, itapile eli1 once labola lapha engqoweni libolisa yonke itapile libolise naletapile engaba ilungile.
Okay, inkosi kakhulu ke mama, ngizawucela sibambe apho. Ngizawucela ke sibambe apho ixesha lethu ke limkile. For now, let's take our ad break. Please hlala kunye nathi and join us after this. Senamkela ke kwakhoma wethu ukubhalisa izimvo zakho kumxholo wethu namhlanje. Please call us on 011-714-6918 or 011-746-919. Dr. Masocha, is it proper for us to be driving around and seeing these posters? They are plugged on your car, that like Mr. Maile has highlighted, or you know, the posters that we see, and it's written in big bold letters and kids see these things.
It's actually quite worrying because it shows the level of morality of this country, the decay. Because I mean, when you see a poster written penis enlargement and you're driving with your son or daughter, it actually raises all kinds of, you know, questions. Let's say your son says, I need to try it. I mean, it's not even discreet. I mean, it's public, it's out there. And I don't know the impact of this to the young generation. And we're also worried about kids. But also, it's important that I mention the socio-economic conditions because
before siye apho ndicela nje uthathe icall kaMargaret enophuma eGauteng. Margaret, wamkelekile enkqubeni? Margaret?
Kunjani mama?
Ngiyaphila mama, kunjani?
Sikhona. Mani ingizisa ubuhlungu le ndaba ngoba kungaba amagqirha noma abantu bomoya abathandazayo. Isipho sikaNkulunkulu ayizange into evela kuNkulunkulu yaba nokungcola. Labantu abeza manje bafika nalezi zinto zabo bangcolisa isipho esihle sikaNkulunkulu. Uvumelana nalabo mama nabo baba bathi noma ngaba uyigqirha noma ngaba uyisangoma noma ngaba umprofeti, into ebulalayo ngeke uzuyisebenzise. Lisipho sikaNkulunkulu asingcolanga mama. Ngicela nje ukuthi uGovernment angasinceda asuse labantu endleleni ngoba amosha into uNkulunkulu asiphe yona. Ngiyabonga.
Enkosi kakhulu ke kumama Margaret. Dr. Masocha?
Yes, there was the second issue that I wanted to mention. It's about the socio-economic conditions, and I think the majority of the people who go there are people who are poor and they are promised jobs, and they, as you use the word gullible, and I think they need to be protected from this, and it shows you that the level of unemployment, inequalities, and so on, and we can't de-link what's actually going on in terms of what's happening in the country.
All right, we are running out of time. Just to wrap up everything we've said today, consumers who are listening at home, they are the ones who are affected. What is it that you want to advise them on?
Uma ngabe ungumulaleli ekhaya o umbukeli wale show ekhaya, ngicela ukuthi wazi ukuthi kunendawo la khona ungakwazi ukuthi uthole khona unqedo. Kunama organizations abelaphi. Kune National Department of Health, Traditional Medicine Directorate, ongakwazi ukuthi ukhulekele kuyo nangabe ubona ukuthi izinto eziningi asenze ngendlela right. Kodwa more than also the other thing definitely sikhuzeke ukuthi njengoba asengifake na ukuthi njengoba kuyi month of youth, of young people, kunabantu utholakala asengibekise the incident eyenzekile eBushbuckridge.
I don't have much time.
Umelaphi utholakala
ngicela uxolo mama
masiyeke. So siyacela ukuthi nabo abantu banga abuse abelaphi and abelaphi banga abuse umphakathi.
Enkosi kakhulu. We've now reached the end of today's show. Sibulele kakhulu ke kwindwendwe zethu ngexesha ke ezisiphelona. We also thank you babukele emakhaya ngokuba ke nathi kude kube ngoku. Please join us again next Friday for another live consumer topic of the week. Ukubukela ke impinda zenkqubo zethu. Please join us on Monday mornings, same channel from 9:30 to 10:30. From me, Sisanda Jonas, and the entire team, it's goodbye.
YilungeloLakho